Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world with me, Deepika, coming up in the next 1 hour. US announces Israel and Syria's agreement on ceasefire after days of conflict in predominantly Druze area, calls to put down the weapons. Lauding efforts of US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff in negotiating between Israel and Hamas, Trump announces another hostage release from Gaza shortly. US President Donald Trump sues Wall Street Journal over Epstein report, seeks $10 billion in defamation suit, administration files motion to unseal jury transcripts. El Salvador releases hundreds of US deputies from notorious prison in US-Venezuela swap. Agreement ends a month-long ordeal decried by rights group. And in sports, Indian women's cricket team will aim for series victory as they lock horns with England in second ODI at Lord's Cricket Stadium. In the early hours of Saturday, the US announced a ceasefire between Israel and Syria, negotiated by US envoy Tom Barrack, following deadly clashes in Syria's Druze-majority Sueda province. Israel has allowed Syrian troops limited access to Sueda. The violence, sparked by a Druze merchant's kidnapping, killed 638 people since the 13th of July, as per Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. Israel's airstrikes, including on Damascus's army headquarters, aimed to protect the Druze, but drew Syrian accusations of destabilization. Despite a prior truce, renewed Bedouin Druze fighting erupted on Friday. Syria's interim leader, Ahmed al-Shara, pledged to restore order, while the UN demanded probes into abuses. Hospitals struggle with over 400 bodies, and humanitarian conditions in Sueda remain dire. Lauding the efforts of US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, President Donald Trump announced that another 10 hostages will be released from Gaza shortly. Trump has been predicting for weeks that a ceasefire and hostage release deal was imminent, but agreement has proven elusive.
Gaza, we got most of the hostages back. We're going to have another 10 coming very shortly, and we hope to have that finished pretty quickly. And Steve Witkoff has been fantastic. He's done a great job in that. He's a very good man, good deal maker. I said I need a good deal maker with a good personality, and there aren't too many of them, but Steve is, and he's done a great job.
Israel and Hamas negotiators have been taking part in the latest round of ceasefire talks in Doha since the 6th of July, discussing a US-backed proposal for a 60-day ceasefire. The truce proposal calls for 10 hostages held in Gaza to be returned, along with the bodies of 18 others, spread over 60 days. In exchange, Israel would release a number of detained Palestinians. US President Donald Trump on Friday filed a $10 billion defamation lawsuit in Miami's federal court against the Wall Street Journal, its parent companies Dow Jones and News Corp, Rupert Murdoch, and 2 reporters. The suit targets a 17th July report alleging Trump sent Jeffrey Epstein a 2003 birthday letter with a suggestive drawing and a reference to shared secrets. Trump, denying the report on Truth Social, called it a scam and vowed to make Murdoch testify. The unverified claim fueled scrutiny of Trump's Epstein ties amid conspiracy theories among his base. Trump's administration faced backlash after a 7th of July Justice Department memo denied an Epstein client list exists. Meanwhile, the US government filed a motion to unseal grand jury transcripts related to the late financier and sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. In a filing in Manhattan federal court, the Department of Justice said the criminal cases against Epstein and his former associate Ghislaine Maxwell are a matter of public interest, justifying the release of associated grand jury transcripts. And to understand more on this, I'm joined by DD India correspondent Akshay Dogmure. Good morning, Akshay. The Epstein case may not be the most interesting one for the US media as per Caroline Leavitt, but it is surely raging all across the globe. With Trump's latest request, what next are we expecting, Akshay?
Well, Deepika, first of all, it seems that Caroline Leavitt, along with the entire White House, the close allies of Donald Trump, are trying to downplay the Epstein issue because even though they are claiming that it is not the most lucrative issue for the media, but it seems that they are misinformed about the kind of interest that media has taken, not just from the U.S. but from all around the world in the Epstein file and the and the claims that are there, including quite high-profile members from Hollywood, from U.S. government, from the top level of even the business community being involved in some sort of sex scandal that was going on the island of Jeffrey Epstein, who then later, according to officials in the U.S., committed suicide. But then we also have these kind of conspiracy theories floating in, for years now that it was not a suicide, but it was a murder to silence Jeffrey Epstein and to close this matter once and for all. That any names that were there in the information or in the knowledge of Jeffrey Epstein should never come out, given how high profile names they are. It involves everyone. It involves politicians, presidents, and not just Donald Trump, but also there have been several claims of many other from the elite of the U.S. and from around the world being involved in this sex scandal that has been going on for far too long without information of the public, and any kind of scrutiny. So it's a very interesting case for the media, and that perhaps is the reason why even the press secretary to the White House has to say and rather make a claim that it is not a lucrative issue for the media. Had it not been, it wouldn't have required a clarification from the White House. So clearly, a lot of interest in that, and this has become one issue that also created a lot of split between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. When Elon Musk claimed that Donald Trump was on the Epstein file, it was in fact a breaking point, which separated the two former allies once and for all. Back to you, Deepika.
Talking about Elon Musk, Akshay, once a friend of Trump, he's also in favor of exposing the case, but the procedure is taking its own course of time. Help us understand how is this case impacting Trump's presidency, also considering the fact that there are other protests also across the US going on against certain policies of Donald Trump.
Well, other policies are fine, Deepika. As per my understanding, there was the big beautiful bill. It has passed the Senate and the Congress, and has been signed by Donald Trump. When it comes to other issues, including the ICE activities, that is the immigration and illegal immigrants that are in the US, that aspect of Trump supporters have also been, that is one aspect where Trump supporters have been actively supporting Donald Trump. But one case, if we have to count in this entire, few weeks of presidency of Donald Trump, as far as this year is concerned, Jeffrey Epstein has become one case that has created the biggest rift between Donald Trump and his, hardcore supporters. Because even the MAGA fan base is calling for the release of Jeffrey Epstein files. They are repeatedly calling for that. Jeffrey Epstein files has become one issue where even the most hardcore supporters of Donald Trump, even the most core base of Donald Trump, has gone against the president, calling, or rather questioning why the delay. So that is one case which can really shake up the presidency, because the most important and the most powerful of the allies of Donald Trump are calling for a release of these files. And questions are now being raised that the promise that was made during the presidential, campaigns of Donald Trump, that the Epstein files will be released first once he comes back to the office, that has not been followed. And there are now also allegations coming in that this time is being used to retract names, to remove evidence, and to remove the most influential people from these Epstein files, which actually defeats the purpose. Back to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Akshay, for joining us and bringing us the latest on the developing issue. Moving on. Over 200 Venezuelans who were deported from the United States on allegations of gang membership earlier this year and detained in an El Salvador jail arrived in home to Caracas on Friday. The release was part of a coordinated prisoner exchange with 10 Americans held in Venezuela, returned to the United States, which ended a months-long ordeal decried by right groups. Venezuela's government said 252 El Salvador had been freed. Now, President Nicolas Maduro celebrated the arrival of 2 airplanes carrying them near Caracas on Friday evening. The Venezuelans were sent to El Salvador from the United States in the month of March after U.S. President Donald Trump invoked the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to swiftly deport alleged members of the Trendy Aragua gang without going through normal immigration procedures. They were held in El Salvador's notorious C-Court maximum security prison. Venezuelan President Maduro thanked U.S. President Donald Trump for making it happen. Well, Nigeria has pushed back on accepting Venezuelans deported from the United States. As U.S. media reported, President Donald Trump was urging the African countries to take in the deportees from around the world. Deporting people to third countries has been a hallmark of Trump administration's crackdown on undocumented migrants, notably by sending hundreds to a notorious prison in El Salvador. Nigerian Foreign Minister Yusuf Tuga claimed that the U.S. is mounting pressure on African countries to accept Venezuelans to be deported from the U.S., some straight out of prisons. Now, Tugar also suggested that U.S. motivation for threatening tariffs against the BRICS political bloc, of which Nigeria is a member, was related to the issue of deportations. His comments came as Donald Trump met with the leaders of 5 West African nations in the White House. His administration was pushing them to accept the deputies from around the world, the Wall Street Journal reported. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump signed a law to create a regulatory regime for dollar-pegged cryptocurrencies known as stablecoins, a milestone that could pave the way for digital assets to become an everyday way to make payments and move money. The bill, dubbed the Genius Act, passed in the House of Representatives by a vote of 308 to 122, with support from nearly half the Democratic members and most Republicans. It had earlier been approved by the Senate. The law is a huge victory for crypto supporters who have long lobbied for such a regulatory framework in a bid to gain greater legitimacy for an industry that began in 2009 as a digital Wild West famed for its innovation and speculative chaos.
With today's signing, we're pushing even further into the exciting new frontier. Just as I promised last year, the Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar-backed stable coins. This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself. A lot of people are saying that.
So what exactly are stablecoins? Here are 3 things to know about stablecoins. Well, stablecoins enable the users to trade digital assets. They track value of traditional assets like US dollar or gold. Stablecoins also enable fast, low-cost cross-border payments. But the next question is, why is the US regulating them? Well, US is pushing the issuers to hold sufficient low-risk liquid assets. Proposed legislation requires the issuers to undergo regulatory audits. Now, risk that it may not be trustworthy or could be hacked. So does the bill go far enough? Well, Amazon and Walmart consider issuing their own stablecoin. Democrats say conflicts are not sufficiently addressed, and Trump's family helped launch a stablecoin called USD1. And the next very important question is that how do other countries regulate them? Well, Europe provides a framework for issuing stablecoins. On the other hand, UK, South Korea and Brazil are moving forward with regulations. And Russia is considering a stablecoin backed by ruble or yuan. After that, now it's time to take a quick and short break, but still to come on the other side. After the break, we'll get you more details on Japan elections as it goes to the poll for its very crucial upper house elections today. Explosion at Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department training facility kills 3. And Brazilian police raids Jair Bolsonaro's home as a judge imposed further restrictions on far-right former leader.
This week, we meet people who are confronting complex environmental challenges. They are trying to find smart and steady ways to restore balance.
One of the projects of BNHS is to conservation breeding of falcons and goshawk, and then release that population after breeding, release that population back in the urban atmosphere like Mumbai.
We're trying to widen and deepen the rivers to increase water flow capacity. But residents must help too, by preventing the accumulation of garbage, which is a problem across Jakarta.
In this NFT channel, we use net cups with cocoa peats on it. This helps to penetrate the roots. There will be nutritious water flowing through the channel that supplies essential nutrients for the plant, and the remaining nutritious water gets channeled back to the water tank.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Well, a US judge on Friday said he will hold on the 28th of August hearing on a request by the Justice Department and Boeing to approve an agreement that allows the plane maker to avoid prosecution. The deal, which faces objections from relatives of some of the 346 people killed in two 737 MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019, enables Boeing to escape oversight from an independent monitor for 3 years. Well, Boeing last year agreed to plead guilty under a deal with prosecutors to a criminal fraud charge that it misled US regulators about a crucial flight control system on 737 MAX. Under the non-prosecution agreement, Boeing will pay $1.1 billion in total, including the fine, compensation to the families, and more than $455 million to strengthen the company's compliance, safety, and quality programs. Well, Japan goes to the polls for its very crucial upper house elections today. This vote is more than just a routine electoral exercise, and it's a significant test for Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's minority government and could reshape the political landscape in Tokyo. TD India correspondent Polomi Parman brings us this report from Tokyo. Take a look.
All eyes on Japan as the nation polls for its crucial upper house elections. This election will decide 124 of the 248 seats in the upper house, with a majority requiring 125 seats. The outcome is highly anticipated as it comes amidst a challenging political and economic landscape. The key contenders for this election are the Liberal Democratic Party led by Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. They are trying to hold on to power, especially after a tough general election last year. Their main partner in the coalition is Kumeto, a party known for its focus on social welfare. Challenging them are several key opposition groups. The largest is the Constitutional Democratic Party, which often pushes for more liberal social policies. The Democratic Party for the People, which has appealed to a broad range of voters with their bold economic stance. The Japan Innovation Party, a right-wing populist group strong in areas like Osaka, advocating their reforms. The Conservative Party of Japan, Japanese Communist Party, Reiwa Shinshin Gumi, and the Social Democratic Party are among the other contenders. To understand more about the domestic political landscape and the sentiments on the ground, we turn to Yogendra Puranik, an Indian-born Japanese politician and the first person of Indian origin to win an election in Japan. He was elected to the Tokyo's Edogawa City Assembly as a city councillor on April 2019, supported by the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan.
So LDP has been in majority in the upper house and the lower house as of before these elections. but LDP needs to win 50 seats out of 125 seats that have been fought for, which is not really a very hard target for LDP because it also has other coalition parties.
The campaigning has been intense, with major parties focusing on critical domestic issues. The major issues that are in focus for this election are the rising prices of commodities. Social security is another major concern for the people. Education of children, defense among the other concerns. Promises to bring in policies against foreign residents and foreign real estate investors in Japan have even sparked a row and concerns within the foreigners living in Japan.
This year is a focus on foreigner people because in Japan foreigner people increase. So that's why some party is a focus on the foreigner. They are making the policy.
In case LDP loses the majority in the upper house, that will create a twisted government because in the lower house, LDP will have the majority, whereas in the upper house, then the Democrats will have the majority. So the CDP, which might land the whole like passing of new laws or other things into a kind of twisted situation.
Despite facing a tough political landscape and challenges, Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba's the Liberal Democratic Party remains the most influential and the forerunner. They are still the largest party in Japan. Although they are maintaining a tricky position, having a minority government in the lower house, this upper house election is quite crucial for them. This is Paulami Burman reporting from Tokyo for DD India.
Now, Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami is all set to hold its first ever national rally at Surawardi Udyan in Dhaka today to press a 7-point demand that includes holding the next general elections under a proportional representation system. After the fall of former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government in August last year, this is the first such big rally being organized by the Islamist Party, aiming to demonstrate its organizational strength and supporter base. Party leaders said the party aims to gather around 10 to 15 lakh supporters from across the country in a display of political strength, several senior leaders said. According to party officials, around 10,000 buses and 2,000 microbuses have been hired to transport party activists from various parts of the country. Bangladesh Railway also approved 4 special trains to facilitate travel for the rally. And now to get you more on this, I'm joined by DD India correspondent Naval Singh Parmar from Bangladesh. Good morning, Naval Singh. Tell us about the situation there in Bangladesh and if there are any security protocols in place, especially after the riot that we noticed in the last rally.
Very charged up as the political party like BNP, Jamaat-e-Islami and the student party, National Citizen Party, all are gearing up for the next election, as well as they are gearing up to show the strength in the absence of Awami League that they have a support of the people of Bangladesh kind of thing. And in line with that, the Jamaat-e-Islami Bangladesh, which is the Islamist party, largest Islamist party in Bangladesh, and though it was banned during the Sheikh Hasina's tenure, and after that the August 2024, the ban was lifted under the interim government led by Dr. Mohammed Yunus, and this is the first big rally, national rally being organized by the Jamaat-e-Islami, and it is a attempt to show this strength of Jamaat-e-Islami, and for that they have done meticulous planning, and the people from all of the Bangladesh, all over Bangladesh are coming to Dhaka, and around, as you mentioned, it is around, expected that around 10 to 15 lakhs people maybe attend this rally. And in this way, Jamaat-e-Islami wants to show the strength and their organizational capacity, and they have a demand of 7 points. But the main point Jamaat-e-Islami is focusing, and that is the proportional representation. As Jamaat-e-Islami is not having a pan-Bangladesh support, and they have some pockets, and in many of the pockets they may be third major party or second major party. So if there is a first past the poll system election will be happen, then they may not get much seats in the Bangladesh parliament. But if they have a proportional representation, then based on the number of percentage of vote share they gain in Bangladesh parliamentary election, they may have a more number of MPs, and they can increase their bargaining power. They can increase their strength in the parliament. So that is their main demand, and that is the bone of contention between the many political parties, particularly BNP and Jamaat-e-Islami, and even the new party, to make a consensus in the constitutional reforms in Bangladesh, which is going over under the Yunus leadership. But the political situation, particularly the law and order and the rallies and counter rallies, are happening. And as you might be aware, that last week there was a NCP rally in Gopalganj, which is home district of Sheikh Hasina. And during the rally, there were clashes between the supporter of Awami League as well as police force, army, and NCP party, and in which earlier there were four deaths, but yesterday there was another person who lost their fight against the life in the hospital, and total 5 deaths are reported in the Gopalganj incident, and there is a curfew is going on in Gopalganj, and the security related issues are there. The law and order situation is very, very bad. Crime against the women and the minority people are also increasing day by day. And the interim government, which is now having better in their hand, they are not in position to provide overall security blanket to the common people, and that is the impression in the common people, that once the sun set, there is a risk of their life or a risk of their belongings in the not in only in the
All right.
countryside, but even in Dhaka.
All right. Thank you so much, Naval Singh Parmar, for joining us from Bangladesh and bringing us the latest on the biggest rally which is going to unfold there. Moving on. Brazilian police raided Jair Bolsonaro's home on Friday as a judge imposed further restrictions on the far-right former leader while he stands trial on court charges that have vexed US President and ally Donald Trump. His son, Eduardo Bolsonaro, lashed out at the Supreme Court Judge Alexandre de Moraes, a Bolsonaro adversary who on Friday ordered the former president to wear an electronic ankle bracelet, not leave his home at night, or use social media. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio announced on Friday Washington was revoking a U.S. visa for judicial officials for his political witch hunt against Jair Bolsonaro. Now, Brazilian President Lula da Silva signaled Friday that he may seek re-election in 2026, saying he would run if his health and motivation remain strong. Lula, who is currently 78 years old, said he would make a final decision after speaking with his conscience and vowed not to let a handful of lunatics return to power, a clear reference to supporters of former President Jair Bolsonaro. His remarks came just hours after Brazil's federal police raided Bolsonaro's home and party headquarters, ordering the former leader to wear an ankle monitor amid an ongoing criminal investigation. Brazil is due to hold its general elections in the upcoming year, 2026.
Porque eu tenho que conversar com a minha consciência, tenho que conversar com a minha própria consciência e conversar com vocês. E eu quero dizer para você o seguinte, não se preocupe, eu vou fazer 80 anos de idade. Se eu tiver com a saúde que eu estou hoje, com a disposição que eu estou hoje, você pode ter certeza que eu serei candidato outra vez para ganhar as eleições. Eu não vou entregar esse país de volta àquele bando de malucos que quase destrói esse país nos últimos anos. Pode estar certo disso. Pode estar certo disso. Eles não voltarão. Candidato, se eu for o ano que vem.
While an explosion at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department training facility killed 3 deputies. The explosion took place at the Biscayne Center Academy training in East Los Angeles. Local newspaper reported that the blast took place when a bomb squad moved some of the explosives. The victims were veterans with a combined 74 years of experience. The authorities are investigating whether the incident was a training accident or not. A law enforcement official speaking anonymously to the Associated Press said the inquiry is in early stages. Federal agents are now at the site. Attorney General Pam Bondi posted on X calling it a horrific incident. In a landmark movement for UK's democratic system, the country announced plans to lower the voting age to 16 years for the next general election. The proposed changes were designed to boost participation and trust in the electoral system. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that the move will give young people a chance to have a say on what their taxes are used for. TD India's Aman Kumar Himanshu reports. Take a look.
In a significant move, the United Kingdom decided to lower the voting age of its citizens who were eligible to vote only after the age of 18. The government said it would now allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote and called this a landmark moment for democracy, while some of its opponents decried the move as an attempt to tilt the electoral playing field. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said, and I quote, "I think if you pay in, you should have the opportunity to say what you want your money spent on, which way the government should go," unquote.
The strategy we have published today will set out how we will legislate and implement provisions to extend the voter franchise to 16 and 17-year-olds, increase participation in our elections, tackle the inconsistencies in voter ID rules, and protect our democracy by overhauling our political finance rules.
The government justified the move, stating that the proposed changes were designed to boost participation and trust in the electoral system. With voting percentage of 59.7, Britain suffered its lowest turnout during the last general election in 2024 since 2001. Britain has more than 1.6 million people aged between 16 and 17 in a total population of roughly 68 million. The plan has been described as the country's largest expansion of voting rights in decades. The last nationwide reduction in voting age to 18 from 21 came more than 50 years ago.
I think our opinion is strong enough to have the right to vote because, 2 years, it is a long time. 16 to 18 is quite like a maturity jump, but I think a lot of people, even from a very young age, have very strong opinions and they think their opinion should be heard. And I think even though we are young, it is important to have a say.
I feel like it's pretty irresponsible because I don't think people so young should be able to make decisions that can change a whole nation's way of living and so many different things. And yeah, I just don't really agree with it myself personally.
UK's decision to lower the age to cast ballots is not new. Several countries like Ecuador, Brazil, and Argentina permitted 16 and 17-year-olds to vote. However, it is not compulsory for them to cast their ballots, unlike those aged 18 and above. Austria was the first country in the European Union to lower its voting age to 16 in 2011. The legal voting age is 16 in several countries including Nicaragua, Scotland and Isle of Man, Ethiopia, Ecuador, Cuba and Brazil, whereas the minimum voting age in East Timor, Ethiopia, Indonesia, North Korea and Sudan is 17. The government said that following the decision, administration will create more automated voter registration system. It will also expand the range of documents that voters can use as proof of identity. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, Cuba removes age limit for presidential candidates in reform approved by the National Assembly. The 2019 constitution had set it at 60 for the first time contenders. The 5-year term renewable once and the minimum age of 35 remains unchanged. The communist-ruled island's restriction of 2 5-year presidential terms and minimum age of 35 for candidates were left unchanged. Former President Raul Castro, who at the age of 94 still holds a seat in the Assembly, was the first to vote for the reform that will be on the books for the 2028 presidential elections. The inclusion of term and age limits in the 2019 constitution marked a radical shift after the 6 decades in which Fidel Castro and his brother Raul were in power. The nation of nearly 10 million people is suffering its worst economic crisis in 3 decades, with shortages of all kinds of supplies, power outages and unprecedented emigration. Time to take a short break, but still to come on the other side. Political leaders huddle with parties top brass ahead of Parliament's monsoon session. Counter-intelligence Kashmir unit of Jammu and Kashmir Police conduct searches at 10 locations across 4 districts. After the break, we'll get you latest weather updates from across the world.
Jharkhand will mesmerize you with majestic nature, rich heritage and colorful culture.
Johar. Johar. It fits perfectly.
Thank you.
Full workout ho gaya.
Ready?
Postcards from Jharkhand on National Geographic.
Welcome back after that short break. You're watching the India News Hour. Time to quickly recap top headlines of the hour. US announces Israel and Syria's agreement on ceasefire after days of conflict in predominantly Druze area, calls to put down the weapons. Lauding efforts of US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff in negotiating between Israel and Hamas, Trump announces another hostage release from Gaza shortly. US President Donald Trump sues Wall Street Journal over Epstein report, seeks $10 billion in defamation suit. Administration files motion to unseal jury transcripts. El Salvador releases hundreds of US deputies from notorious prison in US-Venezuela swap. Agreement ends a month-long ordeal decried by rights group. An Indian women's cricket team will aim for series victory as they lock horns with England in second one-day international at Lord's. Well, the European Union on Friday approved a new round of sanctions against Russia, featuring a reduced oil price cap, a ban on transactions involving the Nord Stream gas pipelines, and fresh measures targeting shadow fleet vessels, helping Moscow bypass restrictions. The 18th round of economic punishment has been approved after Slovakia dropped a weeks-long block following talks with Brussels over broader plans to gradually cut down on Russian gas imports. The European Union says the new measures are aimed at tightening enforcement, closing loopholes, and further weakening Russia's ability to sustain its war against Ukraine.
So the only way to put an end to this war, to get the parties back to the negotiating table and to create the conditions for a just and lasting peace in Europe, is to fundamentally increase the pressure on Russia, both militarily by continuing to deliver arms to Ukraine, which is courageously defending itself, and economically through sanctions. And this 18th package of sanctions is a major step forward.
In response to media queries regarding recent European Union sanctions, India's Ministry of External Affairs said that India does not subscribe to any unilateral sanction measures. Ministry of External Affairs said that India is a responsible actor and remain fully committed to legal obligations. Government of India considers the provision of energy security a responsibility of paramount importance to meet the basic needs of its citizens. India would stress that there should be no double standards, especially when it comes to energy trade. The Indian Embassy in Niger's Niamey expressed heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families of a horrific terror attack that took place a couple of days back. In a post on X, the Indian Embassy in Niger said, and I quote, "In a heinous terror attack on 15 July in Niger's Doso region, 2 Indian nationals tragically lost their lives and 1 was abducted. Our heartfelt condolences to the bereaved families. Mission in Niamey is in touch with local authorities to repatriate mortal remains and ensure safe release of the abducted Indian. All Indians in Niger are advised to remain vigilant," unquote. Well, a heinous terror attack in Niger's Doso region on the 15th of this month claimed the lives of 2 Indian nationals and led to the abduction of another, marking a grim escalation in area's insecurity. The attack targeting the workers follows a pattern of violence, including a prior April incident where 5 Indians were kidnapped. All Indians in Niger have been urged to remain vigilant as the embassy works to ensure their safety. Moving on. Ahead of monsoon session of the Indian Parliament beginning the 21st of July, political leaders are huddling with the party's top brass to strategize the party's position on matters to be taken up in the upcoming Parliament session. In line with this, India bloc parties will hold an online meeting today to reach a consensus on issues to be discussed during Parliament's monsoon session and convey a message of unity. A day before the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party too held a similar meeting of senior leaders of Friday that saw Party President J.P. Nadda, Union Home Minister Amit Shah and Union Minister for Parliamentary Affairs Kiran Rijiju in attendance, among others, at Defence Minister Rajnath Singh's residence. On Sunday, the government will hold the customary all-party meeting to discuss various issues that will be taken up. Moving on. The Counterintelligence Kashmir Unit of Jammu and Kashmir Police is conducting searches at 10 locations across 4 districts of Kashmir. According to the CIK, the raids are linked to a case involving terrorist sleeper cells and a recruitment module allegedly operated from across the border by Jaish-e-Mohammed commander Abdullah Ghazi. The searches are underway at 1 location in Pulwama, 6 in Gandarbal, 1 in Srinagar and 2 in Budgam district. A tragic accident on the Mathura-Yamuna Expressway occurred this morning in which 6 people were killed and over 2 dozens injured when a bus, tanker and a van collided with each other. The injured were taken to the hospital and are being treated. As soon as the information of the incident was received, District Magistrate Chandra Prakash Singh, SSP Shlok Kumar went to the spot and took stock of the situation. And now it's time to get you the latest from across the world on weather. The Indian Meteorological Department has released an alert for heavy rains in many states including Rajasthan, Delhi NCR, UP, Bihar, Haryana, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Jammu and Kashmir. The Weather Department also predicted that the sky will remain cloudy in Delhi for the next 1 week and light rain may also occur in the region. Several states have been witnessing a flood-like situation amid rain fury. These states include Assam, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Sikkim, Manipur, Tripura, Uttarakhand, Karnataka, especially parts of Shivamogga, Bengal and Gujarat. Himachal Pradesh has been severely impacted due to flash floods and landslides. As many as over 108 persons have so far lost their lives in rain-related incidents. In Pakistan, residents near the Nulalai waterway in Rawalpindi began clearing debris and repairing their homes on Friday after monsoon floodwaters receded, with many reporting they had received no help from the government. Heavy rains earlier this week caused severe flooding in low-lying areas, submerging homes and streets and prompting evacuations. Flooding damaged businesses, blocked streets with debris, and residents cleared sludge and water manually. Earlier on Thursday, provincial officials stated that monsoon rain across Pakistan killed at least 159 since late June. Now, South Korea experienced heavy rains for the 3rd straight day on Friday, resulting in at least 4 deaths, the evacuation of thousands, and significant damage to property and infrastructure. The Interior Ministry stated that the 2 people who were trapped in cars on flooded roads and another died in a basement under flood water in the central South province. A drone footage showed flooded rice paddies, houses and cattle sheds in Yesan. Torrential rains warnings continue for western and southern regions with risk of landslides and floodings through Saturday. The Interior Ministry stated that over 5,000 people have been evacuated, with 3,297 currently in shelters. In Spain, firefighters worked on the perimeter of a wildfire that broke out in Neveloenga, some 100 kilometers west of Madrid, on Friday. Aerial views showed thick clouds of smoke rising into the skies, while the firefighters scraped the terrain below. Clad in yellow jackets, firefighters used hose and technical fire in an effort to open a clear in the forest to prevent the fire from spreading further. Local authorities estimate that more than 700 hectares have burned so far in the densely forested mountains. Meanwhile, Spanish military emergency teams have joined firefighters as the blaze spreads to the Front Roja National Park. More than 10 firefighting aircraft are taking part in the operation to contain the flames, dropping water and fire retardant over the affected zones. Officials have advised nearby residents to stay indoors and keep the windows shut to avoid smoke exposure. Meanwhile, nearly 1,000 firefighters and helicopters battled the blaze near Marchigues, about 40 kilometers from Marseille in France. Officials stated that cooler temperatures and higher humidity had helped improve the condition. An eyewitness recorded dense smoke billowing from the wildfire, filming the scene from a window in the city as plumes rose above the surrounding hills. Pierre Bipoy, the colonel of rescue operations and deputy director for the area's firefighters, said 150 people had been evacuated, but firefighters had managed to save 150 homes and portions of the area's forest. As Canada faces one of its most devastating wildfire season, authorities stated that over 13.6 million acres have been scorched this year, an area comparable in size to the entire country of Croatia. As per the official figures, Canada has counted some 3,000 wildfires in 2025, with 561 burning as of Friday. A Canadian official stated that while wildfire damage is high this year, the fire activity is following a more typical seasonal pattern. Elevated temperatures and dry conditions made spring challenging, especially in Manitoba and Saskatchewan. Although fire intensity eased in the month of June, officials warned that the next 2 months are usually the most active, with favorable burning conditions expected in areas like British Columbia. Well, the nation on Saturday honoured Mangal Pandey on his birth anniversary, commemorating his role as a pioneering warrior of the 1857 uprising, often regarded as India's first war of independence. Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid heartfelt tribute to freedom fighter Mangal Pandey on his birth anniversary. Taking to ex-Prime Minister Narendra Modi wrote, and I quote him here, "Heartfelt tributes to the great freedom fighter Mangal Pandey on his birth anniversary. He was a pioneering warrior of the country who challenged British rule. His story of courage and valor will continue to be source of inspiration for the people of the nation," unquote. Time to take a short break, but still to come on the other side. Fourth G20 finance ministers meeting and central bank governors meeting concluded in South Africa. Indian women wrestlers Antim Pangal and Harshita Moore clinched gold medals at ranking series in Hungary. And the Noang lights up the sky and hearts of the visitors at Signature Firework Festival in Vietnam. Welcome back after that short break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Now let's get you all the latest from the world of business. The G20 finance ministers and central bank governors meeting concluded in South Africa. Ministers and central bank leaders from G20 countries, invited nations and international financial institutions convened to discuss pressing global economic issues. DD India correspondent Nazneen Ismail caught up with Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India there. Take a listen to him.
Amid global economic uncertainty, India's voice continues to rise with quiet confidence. I caught up with Chief Economic Advisor to the Government of India, Dr. Venkatraman Ananda Nageshwaran, who's helping shape not just India's fiscal path, but conversations across the G20.
India continues to articulate some of the issues that are common to the developing world and also obviously for India as well. One is how will we assimilate and integrate technology while creating jobs such as artificial intelligence, etc. I think the way in which global South countries can collaborate is to pool their human resources and look at creating R&D, because supply chain vulnerabilities arise from dependence on single sources. And obviously the answer to that is to do what today's dominant supply chain countries have done, which is to invest in technology, invest in R&D, invest in human resources. And if individual countries are somewhat fiscally strapped, it is important to tap into the private sector, but also collaborate and pool the intellectual and human resources to be able to create supply chain resilience. This not only involves understanding each country's strengths in terms of physical resource endowments, etc., but also human resource endowments. And these are the areas through which I think South Africa and India can collaborate.
Two nations, one conversation. India's economic wisdom meets South Africa's warm diplomacy. That was Dr. Nageshwaran and I'm Nazneen for DD India, connecting continents through conversation.
Microsoft has halted the use of China-based engineers for technical support of U.S. Defense Department systems following a ProPublica report exposing the practice. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth confirmed the outsourcing and vowed no future Chinese involvement in DoD cloud services. Microsoft's Frank Shaw stated that the company has adjusted its support to exclude China-based teams. Senator Tom Cotton urged an investigation, prompting Hegseth to order a 2-week review to ensure no similar issues exist across the DoD. Hegseth emphasized the need to counter digital threats and thanked media for highlighting the issue, ensuring robust protection of military infrastructure. Talking about the markets now, global stock markets stalled on Friday after a bullish week driven by strong US data and corporate earnings. The S&P 500 and Nasdaq, hitting record highs on Thursday, showed little gain while the Dow dipped. London's FTSE neared its record, Paris was flat and Frankfurt slipped on profit-taking. Asian markets rose except Tokyo, impacted by Japan's upcoming elections. Investors downplayed US President Trump's tariff threat with no clear inflation spike in June's consumer price index, though Berenberg's Holger predicts core inflation nearing 3.5% by year-end. You're watching DD India News Hour, and now it's time to get you all the latest from the world of sports. To begin with women's cricket, Indian women's team will lock horns with England in the second ODI at Lord's Cricket Ground on Saturday. India will look forward to continue their impressive run. Having won the opener by 4 wickets, a victory at the iconic venue will hand the visitors an unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match series. All eyes will be on Smriti Mandhana, who's India's best batter at present, while England will look to restore parity. Well, this is a do-or-die encounter for the hosts, and they both want to keep the series alive, especially after going down by 2-3 in preceding T20 International Series. The Lord's Cricket Ground is expected to favour the seamers, especially when the ball is new. There are swing bowlers on both the sides who can use the conditions to their advantage. In chess, India scripted history as all 4 players, Kuneru Hampi, Harika Dronavali, Vaishali Ramesh Babu and Divya Deshmukh, booked their spots in the quarterfinals of the FIDE Women's World Cup in Georgia. Hampi beat Switzerland's Alexandra in tie breaks in Batumi City. Hampi will take on Yuxin Song for a place in the semi-finals. On the other hand, Vaishali also overcame Meriwand of Kazakhstan. Her quarterfinal opponent will be Tan Zongye. Harika lost the first game against Russia's Katerina before bouncing back to win the match. She will meet Divya in All-Indian quarterfinal round. Well, Divya stunned Su China of China in pre-quarterfinal round by winning the first game and securing a draw in the return leg. The tournament offers free spots in the FIDE Women's Candidates Tournament, set to take place in the first half of next year. Indian Grandmaster Arjun Erigaisi has been knocked out of the freestyle chess Grand Slam after a 0-2 defeat against Levon Iranian in semi-finals at Las Vegas. Iranian won the first game when Arjun could not capitalize on his advantage. In the return game, Iranian needed only a draw to advance. The game seemed headed for a draw, but Arjun, needing a victory to stay in the match, took unwarranted risk that cost him dearly. Erigaisi had become the first Indian to reach the last four stage of the tournament with a stellar performance. Hans Niemann of the United States was the other player to reach the finals. In wrestling, Olympian Antim Pangal and Harshita won gold medals at Ranking Series wrestling competition in Hungary. Antim Pangal beat Natalia Malisheva by 7-4 in the final in Budapest for her second international gold this year, following her triumph at the Ulaanbaatar Open in the month of May. Harshita won India's second gold medal of the day in 72 kg weight category after competing in Nordic system and beating four-time Asian champion Zamila Bakrijinova of Kazakhstan in final round. Meanwhile, Neha Sangwan had to settle for a silver medal in 57 kg weight category after a 4-0 loss against former Olympic champion Helen Marvulis. India's women wrestlers picked up 4 medals, 2 gold, 1 silver and 1 bronze medal on Friday. In Kabaddi, the Women's Kabaddi World Cup is all set to take place in India's southern city of Hyderabad from 3rd till the 10th of August. The tournament was relocated after eastern state of Bihar withdrew from hosting responsibilities. It had also hosted the inaugural edition in 2012 in Patna. 14 teams, including sides from Africa and Latin America, will participate in the 10-day tournament. Host India are the defending champions. Kabaddi is one of the oldest sports in the world with a 4,000-year-old history. In soccer, Spain reached the semi-finals of Women's Euro Cup after battling past Switzerland by 2-0 as the world champions continued their bid for a first-ever European champion. Athenia Del Castillo and Claudia Pina scored the goals in the second half in Bern City. Spain missed 2 penalties and struggled to break down Switzerland as the hosts put up a brave fight. The Swiss had never progressed past the group stage of a Euros before, and at the end of Spain proved to be too much for the team ranked 23rd in the world. They will face either France or Germany on Wednesday for a berth in the finals. And before we let you go, it's now time to bring you some amazing visuals. Da Nang city in Vietnam lit up the skies and hearts of the visitors as its signature firework festival dazzled the crowds, further cementing the city's reputation as a global destination for culture and celebration. Visitors from around the world gathered along the Han River to witness the spectacle event. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download it right now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Deepika, and from all of us here in New Delhi, thank you so much for watching DD India News Hour.